akatambudzwa ndiPonti Piratu, akaroverwa, akafa, akavigwa, akamuka mukufa nemusi wechitatu, akakwira kudenga, agere paruoko rworudyi rwaMwari Baba nemasimba ese, chauya kutonga upenyu nevakafa. Ndinotenda kune Mweya Mutsvene, chechi tsvene imwe, kuwadzana kwevakanaka, rusununguko rwezvinyangadzo, rumuko rwemuviri neupenyu husingaperi. Amen. Ndichakumbira Reverend Fundira vati vhuriro nemunamato. Thank you.
Mazvitambato echigaro, regai tinamate. Baba wedu wekudenga mumanheru ano, iyemi matisanganisa paplatform pano yeZoom, mukatisanganisa paFacebook uye paYouTube. Pane hama dzedu dzimwe dziripo dzatiri kupinda nadzo musevhisi iyoyi. Tiri kunamata tichikutendai nechipo cheupenyu chamunoramba muchitipa. Kunyangwe zviri kurwadza asi tiri kuona nyasha dzenyu nekuti muri kutipa nguva yekuti tikunamatei, muri kutipa mweya wekufema. Uye muri kutichengeta mukukwira nemukudzika. Tinokutendai Mweya Mutsvene nechipo cheupenyu. Rambai muinesu Baba, tinobvuma kutadza kwatinokuitirai. Tinotadza nguva dzese asi chitiregereraiwo Jesu, kuti panguva ino yatakutanga sevhisi mumanheru ano, Mweya Mutsvene tikatanga tisina your presence, tinotangira pasina. Taakukumbira Mweya Mutsvene atikomberedze sechechi, atikomberedze semafamilies and individuals. Tega hatigoni, but tiri kuda nyasha dzedenga dzititungamirire, tiri kuda nyasha dzedenga dzitirwire pamanheru ano. Amatiunganidza, hamutiunganidziri pasina. Izvo ndo zvandinoziva. Chitibatsirai Mwari mukati meupenyu kuburikidza neshoko renyu. Chitidzidzisai mwoyo yakaneta, mwoyo yakaremerwa. Tine mahopeless situations Mwari, hatina chatichaziva. Tiri kuenda pamwe pacho tofunga kuti tiri kudzoka, asi Mwari taakuda imimi neshoko renyu rinounza clarity, shoko renyu rinobvisa confusion matiri, shoko renyu rinounza zivo mukati meupenyu. Mweya Mutsvene tibatsirei manheru ano Baba. Tagarira tarindira kunzwa chidzidzo, kunzwa soko. Vhurai mwoyo wemukati Jesu, ndava ndo mhandu. Mwoyo wemukati Baba, mwoyo wemukati Jesu, mwoyo unotadzisa kunzwa soko kuti rigare mukati memwoyo. Mwoyo Jesu tangai nawo madekwani ano. Mwari toda kunzwa kutaura kwenyu panguva ino. Tazvininipisa sedominion circuit. Tauya kwamuri Mwari tichikumbira nyasha dzekuchengetwa. Takumbira nyasha dzekuchengetedzwa nemi Mwari Baba wekudenga. Tinongosuma nyika ino mumaoko menyu, nyika yatigere yatiri kurarama tiri, yatakungoti mimi Jesu ndimi muwambi nomukwanisi, ndimi Jehovha wachatichengeta nokutirwira. Chengetai nhengo imwe neimwe yedominion kwese kwairi, kubasa ngakukomberedzwe Mwari. Panovhuvhuta mhepo dzekumwe, ava ngavachengetwe pasi pechigaro penyasha. Tinoda kuzoimba favor takaiona Mwari. Kana dutu radzikama tozuva rinodzikama. Ndawa imimi Baba muri Mwari werugare, pisi yamakataura kuti rugare ngaruwe nemi, rugare ngaruwe nemi. Ndorwataakunamatira panguva ino. Chiuya Mweya Mutsvene atakure mukati memutauri. Mutauri wedu apano manheru anonga azadzwe nekutaura Baba kwatiri. Tauya Baba nemwoyo yese. Tinomuziva asi nhasi tauya Baba, tirikatarisa mudziyo wenyu wamuda kushandisa. Tinouremekedza manheru ano tenzi. Taurai nesu kuburikidza ndiye muranda wenyu. Taurai nesu, tsiurai upenyu hwedu, dzidzisai Baba. Hatigoni kutanga uru rusando kana muchinge makafuratira, asi tangai nesu nokupedza nesu. Mazwi emuromo wake nekufunga kwemwoyo ngazvigashirwe pamberi penyu, otenzi wamasimba ose. Ndimi mudzikinuri mururamiri mukati meupenyu hwake. Adhilivhe shoko rinobva kwamuri. Ndawa chake kushama muromo, imi modurura mazwi. Ndinonamatisa vanorwara panyama nepamweya paplatform pano, ngavarapiwe nemi Jesu nekuti muri murapi. Ndinonamata Mweya Mutsvene kuti mutibatsire, muunze clarity muconfusion yatinayo. Ndinonamata panguva ino Mwari, muunze hope muhopeless situation. Ndiri kunamata panguva ino, kana vanhu vangu vanodanwa nezita rangu vakasiya zvakaipa vakazvininipisa vakandipisa vakatsvaga chiso changu, ipapo ndiri kudenga ndichanzwa chiso changu, ndichanzwa kutaura kwavo, kunyengetera kwavo, ndiri kunamata manherano sekutaura kwamakaita. Mweya mutsvene ipapo muri kudenga, inzwaiwo munamato yedu. Mweya mutsvene ipapo mugere pachigaro chekutonga, hamusandurwi neani situation, hamubvi pachigaro chenyu muchiri kutonga nanhasi, muchiripo pachigaro chenyu kutonga mukati meupenyu. Adressai every situation ine mukati menhengo imwe neimwe manheru ano. Mazvita Baba ndinokutendai, mazvita Jesu ndinokutendai. Tangai nesu uye pedzai nesu, muzita raJesu tanamata. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen.
Amen. Mazvita mufundisi. Tiri kutenda Mwari nekusanganiswa second day redu Stewardship and Temperance week yedu. Tiri kuita our road to harvest launch. Tiri kuda kungokurudzirana kunapa tichitenda Mwari nezvizhinji zvavatiitira. Tiri kutenda Mwari zvakanyanya nemutauri wedu watapiwa nhasi, varivo Baba Marovatsanga. Baba Marovatsanga, we welcome you. Tinokupai floor kuti mutipe soko ramatigadzirira. Thank you.
Mazvita liturgist, thank you so much for the warm welcome. Thank you, Reverend Kunamata muchitivhurira service inoi. Ndoti pamusoroi mufundisi nababa nemhuri, CM leadership ese church, magosa edu ese, vanoremekedzwa vese. Regai nditi I would like to observe all protocol. Asi regai nditi zvikuru sei pamusoroi kune Stewardship and Temperance for allowing me this opportunity to speak to the church today. Ndakapiwa topic iri specific, and ndakaona zvakafanira kuti regai tiite a teaching based on the topic yandakapiwa. Ndakumbira host kuti vanditendere kuita share my slides so that I can just speak through them. Kwandiri, I'm in a shared accommodation, so I have other people, colleagues in other spaces, so there might be, communication happening in the background. I also don't have very good network today, so I'll try and speak as fast as I can. Kuti ndichiri kukwanisa, ndichiri kutenderwa network, tite go through the teaching yedu yanas. Rita, I see I can share now. Let me share my slides and ask for confirmation. Can you see it? And is there kana mupaina anokwanisa kuita confirm if the slides are showing on the other side?
Yes, they're showing.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, so I think my name is Gift Marovatsanga. I'm a founding member and the CEO at Refined Image Studio, but I'm also Mwanawe Sangano. So I think that kapiwa topic I was put in the spotlight. I identify also as an entrepreneur. So ndakapiwa topic yatiri kutaura nezvayo nhasi, it's entrepreneurship and business etiquette. That was the topic I was given, but in my thinking on what it is exactly that might be of interest to us within the context of who we are as Christians and within the church, ndakavandudza topic yedu so that it speaks to entrepreneurship and business etiquette. And then I had to give it a surname and expand it to say we're looking at kingdom principles in the marketplace, so that when we talk of entrepreneurship, we talk about it in general, but also try and put it specifically within the context of the church and to speak to believers, so that it might help us in a much better way. So I think at this point, nditendere kuti ndite favor, I'm married, I'm a husband to Mrs. Marovatsanga, who I think is also online right now. Sakarekedza ndiye wakwazise nditi maakadima eMarovatsanga. Also a father to 2 girls, and ndiri mwana wesangano, as I said. So I think that's just about it for introductions. So we will be talking today about entrepreneurship, what it is, and what is business, and what is business etiquette. We will, as I said, speak specifically to, or try and
recording in progress,
speak of entrepreneurship within the kingdom of God. So we're trying to rebrand it as kingdom entrepreneurship. We'll try and look at some biblical references and talk about entrepreneurship and the significance in the church. And we'll also look at the kingdom principles in business, and we'll look at etiquette in within the context of discipleship and business. And then we can do a quick reflection on that. So when we talk of entrepreneurship, we're talking of a state of running a business with considerable initiative or risk. So it is the creation or the extraction of economic value. When we talk of entrepreneurship, we're expecting that at the end of the day, there is economic value that can be extracted from whatever it is that the initiative is, or the business is, or the processes and or services that one is offering, or from the products that one has designed, created, or is offering or selling. So an entrepreneur in that context refers to a person who starts a business. When you're talking of entrepreneurship, in most cases, and ideally, we're looking at the person who starts the business alone. So we're looking at the individual who creates, in most cases, a new business for you to qualify to be an entrepreneur, bearing most of the risks, but also looking forward to enjoying most of the rewards. But then when we look at business in general, we then say business becomes an enterprising entity or an organization that carries out professional activities. So my definitions, I think the word entrepreneurship is very familiar to most of us. So this person is an entrepreneur. Vanoita mabasa emaoko, vanhu vanovaka, vanogadzira, vanoprovide any service, or vanoita any work that involves buying and selling and providing answers to the needs that our communities or societies have. But when we look at kingdom principled entrepreneurship, I think we begin to look at it as more than just creating businesses and generating profit. When we look at kingdom principled entrepreneurship, or entrepreneurship within the church, within the kingdom, it becomes more of a calling to steward God's resources, to solve societal problems, to create opportunities, and to demonstrate God's character through business. So it becomes more than just someone who is selling to make money and to make profit for themselves, but we want to frame it within the context of stewarding God's resources. So I think this is why it is befitting that we talk about this topic during the course of this week in stewardship and temperance. So business etiquette, therefore, if we are looking at entrepreneurship in this context, means business etiquette, therefore, becomes an outward expression of the inward values that kingdom entrepreneurs uphold. Kana uri mutendi, uri mwana wa Mwari, and then an entrepreneur, my values auneta uphold in the api. How do you communicate with people? How do you engage with other people? How do you sell? How do you look for business? How do you negotiate for business? How do you pay other people and all that? So those are some of the things that we need to be, conscious about and to have a conversation around. So the business foundation of entrepreneurship, if you look at entrepreneurship, it is there embedded in so many spaces and places in the Bible. So we have a very big place and role to play in business, in the marketplace. Why? Because the first one is, as I said, stewardship. If we go to Psalm 24, verse 1, it says, "The earth is the Lord's and everything in it." So if the earth is the Lord's and everything in it belongs to Him, what is our role and what is our responsibility as Christians? Our responsibility is to take care of that, is to manage that, is to steward and to look after the things that God has entrusted us with. So, but just by so doing, we need to then realize that entrepreneurship means stewardship. It is managing God's resources, because at the end of the day, silver, gold, the world and its fullness belongs to the Lord, and it is our responsibility as entrepreneurs, as Christians, to manage and to steward that. Then it is also founded on diligence. Kingdom entrepreneurs reject laziness, so you become diligent in your work, in your service, in everything that you do. When you go to Proverbs chapter 22:29, it says, "Do you see someone skilled in their work? They will serve before kings." Do you see someone skilled in their work? They will serve before kings. In the world that we live in, we have kings, we have leaders, we have authorities, we have presidents, we have businesses, we have the business, community, we have different enterprises. And the word is saying, if you are skilled in your work, then that skill that you have been given becomes your passport, becomes your gateway to serving within the marketplace, to serving within the community and the spaces that you are operating in. So entrepreneurship is founded on diligence, and that diligence comes from your ability to hone your skill and to develop your skill and to be consistent in what you do, and that is what will allow you to serve where you are planted. It is also built on integrity. Entrepreneurship should be built on integrity because it is doing what is right, even when nobody is watching, even when no one is, aware of what resources do you have, what access do you have, how much money has been, afforded to you to run this business and to run this project. You begin to run your business, you begin to run your enterprise without being deceptive, because business that is built on deception eventually collapses. We can refer to Proverbs chapter 11, verse 3 for that. The integrity of the upright guides them. So entrepreneurship within the church should be founded on integrity. But also, and very importantly, it is built on service. Jesus demonstrated this servant leadership, and business exists to serve the people. So you can think of any business. Tinoita zvekubheka chingwa, tichitengesa chingwa. Kubheka mascones, tichitengesa mascones. Tinobheka magwinya, tinotengesa magwinya. What are we doing? We are serving the people, because at the end of the day, people buy the service, people buy the product because they need it. If it's food, whether it's clothing, whether it's a service that we are providing, we are doing it to serve the people. And when entrepreneurs focus on solving problems rather than merely making profit or making money, yes, you make profit, but that profit becomes the reward for value that has been created. So we can refer to Mark chapter 10, verse 45 to confirm that. The Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve. And through his service, he was revered, he was rewarded by his heavenly Father, and he earned his space and his place within business, within community, within the society that he lived in. And it is because he came to serve and people revered him for that, not because he came so that he can be worshipped or that he came so that people can fear him, but he actually came and demonstrated servanthood and servant leadership. So we ought also, as Christians, as entrepreneurs within the kingdom, to build our businesses and our enterprises around or on the solid foundation of service. When we look at principles now, what are the principles in business that we can say these principles are principles that are kingdom principles? The first would be love. If you are in business, you ought to build your business and operate with love. You treat your customers, you treat your employees, you treat your suppliers and everyone that you interact with love, because it covers a lot of things, because it invites people, because it makes people feel seen and respected and appreciated, and people commit and people are dedicated to what you're doing. People would want to come and work with you and require your services because they know you do what you do out of the principle of love. The second principle that I think we need to uphold as entrepreneurs is honesty. Luke 16 verse 10, whoever can be trusted with little, very little, can also be trusted with much. Honest people, honest entrepreneurs are more likely to get a lot more business, a lot more people wanting to work with them, a lot more customers. People want to collaborate, people want to partner with you, people want to support what you do because they know you're an honest person to work with, because people don't feel cheated and short-changed when they are working with you. Then we can also look at the principle of faithfulness. So you need to remain committed to the cause, to the business, to the enterprise, to providing your service even during difficult seasons. And also generosity. Business should also bless other people. When you're in business, when you're an entrepreneur, it is also important to be generous, to say, when you have more, when you receive more, when you're getting business and business is good, when you have more customers and you're making a lot of profit, it is also essential and important to be generous, to say, I see you are in this business also, or you are trying to set something up and maybe you are not doing really well, or you haven't really acquired a market. Let me link you up with this service provider, or let me link you up with this clientele base because they might benefit from your service. So that generosity, I think, is very important to always be to consider as entrepreneurs. And then wisdom is very important also. If we lack wisdom, we should ask of it from God, and He guides our steps. Now, so what is the purpose, in essence, of kingdom entrepreneurship? Our purpose as entrepreneurs, as business people, as Christians, is to create value. Is to create value through the products that we create, we manufacture, the products that we buy and resell. It is to create value through the services that we offer that respond to the human needs. I've already spoken about the idea of solving problems. Purpose of kingdom entrepreneurship is to solve problems within the society, within the communities that we find ourselves in. When you see a problem and it bothers you, perhaps that is a calling to say, this is a problem. How do we create a solution to solve this problem? And as you create that solution to solve that problem, people are willing to pay for the service, to pay for the product that answers to that question, that is responding to the problem that is there. And then by so doing, that becomes a form of enterprise, because people are willing to pay for solutions to problems that they encounter. But also, it is important to to understand that the purpose of creating enterprises and running entrepreneurship is also to generate employment, to provide and to create spaces for other people to exercise and to practice and to employ their skills and to put their skills and their talents to work. It is also important to think of entrepreneurship as a means of building communities by giving back through acts of service and engaging and partnering with communities, and by so doing, building communities. We can't shy away from the fact that people get into entrepreneurship for the purpose of creating wealth. But I think what is important is for us as Christians to always think of that and say it's not complete until we say to create wealth responsibly. Because then if you go into the word reminds us that money is the root of all evil. So if you are doing your business and your enterprise solely and only for the purpose of amassing wealth, it might become a problem when you begin then to do that without being responsible in your doing. But it is also key and critical and important to think of entrepreneurship as a means to fund the kingdom work. If the church needs to do an outreach, the church needs a certain service, the church needs someone to provide a particular product or a particular service or certain resources, and your business or you are gifted or you have the skill set to provide that work, it is also our responsibilities as entrepreneurs to fund the kingdom work by so doing, by offering our services. So some of us are teachers by nature, and if our teaching and our skill becomes a form of entrepreneurship, if you're a mentor, if you're a teacher, if you provide a service that provides skills, and the youth in the church require that skill and you have it, you can fund the kingdom by training those people. You can fund and advance the work of the Lord by offering your services to the house of the Lord. So it is also in the same breath an opportunity to demonstrate God's love through service. That's what entrepreneurship is in terms of its purpose. Now, what is our position as believers in the marketplace? I think I would like to believe the marketplace is one of the greatest mission fields of our generation. We do teach, we do preach, we do serve the Lord within the house of the Lord, within the church. But there is a lot of work that needs to happen within the marketplace. And we need more and more players within the marketplace, within business spaces, within the business circles. We need more and more believers within that space, because it is within that space that you can begin to influence change. You can begin to influence the change of hearts and the change of minds in the manner in which how people interact, in the manner in which how people do business. So it is a mission field on its own. And every entrepreneur has the opportunity not only to build wealth, but also to influence lives, to influence communities, and to influence nations. God's kingdom principles provide a moral and a spiritual foundation that promotes ethical leadership. So once you find yourself working and interacting with other businesses, providing service, supplying, working within the supply chain space, responding to the demands and to the needs of communities, you begin to interact with people from all walks of life. But as you are doing that within that space, as a Christian, as a believer, you begin to provide an opportunity for people to see and to learn what ethical leadership is. You begin to influence sustainable business growth. You begin to influence how other business people, could do their work differently. So it is important for us to not shy away from entrepreneurship and pushing ourselves into that space and accepting the calling to get into the marketplace and making a meaningful impact. As believers, the word reminds us that we are called to be the salt and the light of the world. So this is according to Matthew chapter 5 from 13 to 16. And when you do that, it means we are bringing integrity, we are bringing excellence, we are bringing compassion, and we are bringing justice into every business transaction. When people come to your firm, whether it's a law firm, when people come to your organization, when people come to your business, and you provide your service, with integrity, with compassion, and you are just in your dealings, people stop and say, what is it about this business that make them operate in the manner in which they operate? Why are they so loving? Why are they so caring? They follow up, they provide, they go all out of their way to do more than that which is expected of them. Those are the principles. Those are the same foundations that we spoke about earlier on. And when people begin to see that, you have begun to live the word within the business space, within the marketplace. You have begun to now serve where you are planted and becoming the salt and the light of the world. And it is important. It is a form of worship. It is a form of serving and advancing kingdom, the work of the kingdom. So we'll make a few biblical references and talk about the significance of entrepreneurship in the church. In Genesis chapter 1, God speaks about being fruitful and multiplying and filling the earth. And we think about it as procreation and, subduing the earth and reproduction. But if you look at it from a business and entrepreneurship perspective, it is actually a mandate to say you must go and create, go and initiate, go and lead, go and make, go and manage. What is it that you are creating? What is it that you are managing? What is it that you're doing? You're managing resources. You are managing transactions. You are creating opportunities. You are creating jobs. You are employing other people. You are making use of resources that have been entrusted with you. You are multiplying. And in all this, we begin to speak the language of profit, because if you have 2 cows, if you have two, and then you reproduce them, and then they become 4, and then they begin to multiply, you begin to talk of profits and profit margins. You begin to talk about creating opportunities for other people. You are going to employ the services of people who are going to manage those resources for you. So in all this, we have been given a mandate to become entrepreneurs and to manage resources. And that is entrepreneurship, right from the beginning of time. Okay, excuse me. Okay, all right. So if you go to Proverbs chapter 10, verse 4, it talks about being productive. Do you have lazy hands? He that has lazy hands is going to go into poverty. If you don't work, you are definitely leading yourself into a space of poverty, because hard work, discipline, requires you to sow. It requires you to understand seasons. It requires you to understand when to invest. That is the language of investment, the language of taking risks. It is all about wealth creation. That language, diligence, riches, it is language that we use in business, in entrepreneurship. You start talking about what are your annual returns? What is the profit margin? What is loss? Have you done enough work? Have you done enough planning? Have you put in enough, investment in the business? All that language comes from, it is there, it is biblical, that we can't be lazy hands. We can't expect to grow when we are not investing and applying our skills and putting things in work. We can't, when you talk of balance sheets and accounting, and we need to be accountable, but we need to account. What is it that we're accounting for? All that is language that we find within the word. When you go to Matthew chapter 25, we know the parable of the man, the rich man with his workers, his servants, whom he gives the talents, and he goes away. And when he comes back, he says, "You had 5, what did you do with them? And one says, I invested, I traded using the 5, and now I have 10. And then says, okay, so you invested, you planted, you multiplied the resources I gave you. So 5 remains as mine. You give me the money that I gave you a startup. You take the 5, which is the profit, and you invest in your own things. But he who was given 1 and went and hid it and buried it in the ground became a good example of how not to be an entrepreneur, because he then says, oh, I didn't realize that you are going to want me to do anything. I just thought I can't use your money. I know you're going to want it back, so I just kept it safely, and here it is. And says, but that's poor decision making. That's a lack of understanding. That's a failure to strategize. You lack vision. You could not plant. You did not invest, so you cannot harvest. So what is it that is expected of you? You are expected to understand seasons. You are expected to understand opportunities, to say this is a business opportunity. This is a problem, but how do we maximize on this problem and turn it around and say this problem needs an answer, is the solution. By providing that solution and providing an answer, you are beginning to create a service. You're beginning to create a product that answers to the problem. That is a form of entrepreneurship. And by so doing, you're using your gifts, you're using your skills, you're using your talents, you're using the resources that you have at your disposal to make a profit, to determine a profit margin. So you're managing resources in a way that those resources eventually will give birth to other resources. And then I like the scripture that refers us to the ants, to say, Simbeenda kumujuru unoona kuti mujuru inoita sei, right? You sluggard, go to the ants and see how they work as a team, and they work effortlessly so, but they work very hard. Learn from the ants, learn from nature. They team up, they collaborate, they prepare in season, they collaborate. They don't have a commander, they don't have a leader, but they know how to organize themselves. So think about that as entrepreneurship. Think about that as business. Think about that as family business. What are we doing as a church to say, hey, these are the skill sets that we have within this church. We have people who can do this. We have people who can build. We have people who can create this. Have we ever sat down to say, how can we create a family business where money can begin to circulate amongst us as an organization, as a church, as a ministry, rather than being jealous of each other, rather than competing unnecessarily, rather than, not supporting each other? How can we team up and begin to say, let's create a supply chain amongst ourselves? You are good at this, I'm good at this, I have access to these resources. Let's put all these resources together and create a system within which you can begin to multiply this. All these are references we find right in the Bible. And as Christians, it is our responsibility to say, okay, with the little money that we have, with the resources that we have, and the type of minds that we have, and the type of skills that we have, how can we begin to maximize? So still on those references, we go to Genesis 1, we speak about everyone being created in the image of God, who is a creator. It automatically means each and every one of us has a creative ability. That creative ability is an ability that allows you to initiate something, to say, this is my idea. It might not be the best idea, but it is an idea. How do we, not even to just say idea, how do we improve it? How do we maximize on the ideas and amplify them so that at the end of the day, we can begin to see and to promote the rise of more and more entrepreneurs amongst ourselves? You have an idea, don't shy away and keep it to yourself. Maybe my ideas are not sound enough. Share your ideas, bring them to the table, ask for support, ask for criticism, ask for feedback. Do you think this works? I was just playing around and this is what I sketched, and I think we can put this into a 3D and assess and see if it can become a product that people can buy. Because each and every one of us is created in the exact same way. So if someone else can do it, you can also do it. We might be gifted differently, but each and every one of us has an ability to create something. Adam and Eve were given the garden. Before they were created, the garden was created for them. There was land, there were rivers, there were animals, there was livestock, and they were created and they were placed in a garden. They were entrusted with or planted within an environment where resources were already given to them. So what were they expected to do? They were expected to bloom where they were planted. They were expected to begin to operate and to manage and to make sure that they manage the resources that were given to them. So it is our responsibility also to say, to challenge ourselves, what is it that I have at my disposal? Is it a good voice? Can I start a ministry in music? Can I start creating voiceovers for stories? Can I start selling that as a service? Can I start making money as an entrepreneur in that? What am I gifted with? I'm not even talking of qualifications that you need to go and study, but I'm talking of the gifts, the skills that you were given naturally. You were born with a certain talent, you're born with a certain skill. Some of us have given up on our skills because we were told, you know, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? Because someone has done this and they became successful. And a lot of people have abandoned themselves and their own identity and their skills and their talents. But if you go back into that, what is your skill set? What are you doing with it? Are you naturally talented in designing things? Are you really good at working in the garden? Are you very good at arranging flowers? Are you really good at baking? How then do we begin to tap into those skills and those talents and resources and begin to say, okay, let's create a value chain. Let's create value and add value to this. Let's begin to amplify it. So bloom where you are planted. Jesus, like his earthly father, was a carpenter. Jesus had everything spiritually. He was God. He was gifted with the gift of the Spirit. He was divine. But the time he had to exist on earth and interact with people, right? But the time he had to operate on this earth, it was important for him to have a trade. He had to learn the skill. He was watching his father work, and he had to sit and observe. And he was a carpenter. He had a trade. We can go to Mark chapter 6, verse 3, and observe and realize that he was actually working. That was his job. He was skilled in that. Simon and Andrew were fishermen before becoming fishers of men. They were fishing, literally working and creating the rods and mending their nets and going to the shore to go and fish. And surely they were selling that fish. They were making a life out of that, whether they were exchanging that fish for something else that is trade. So they worked and provided for their families before they became fishers of men. So it is no doubt that it is our prerogative and our responsibility to look at entrepreneurship seriously and say, this year, the next half of this year, let us see how many entrepreneurs we promote, we mentor, we groom, we develop as the year progresses. Let us go and say, last year we had 5 entrepreneurs whom we knew that they were doing well as entrepreneurs. This year the number is double. How do we begin to do that within our ministry? Abraham was very rich in livestock. He was rich in silver and he was rich in gold. Genesis chapter 13, verse 2. Solomon was very wealthy. He maintained peace in his kingdom, and so he saved his livestock rather than using the livestock to fund war, right? That is understanding how to use your resources for production rather than for protection. Solomon was very wealthy, and when we go and read about his kingdom and his leadership, he was a peacemaker. He was a peace-loving leader who said, let us save our livestock. And if you go in comparison with other, leaders and other kings during his time, you realize a lot of people used their livestock and whatever they had, the resources, to say, I'm paying you, I'm using this 1,000, head of cattle for you to go and start a war, or to say, please, stop this war. And they were using their resources for protection rather than, production. So what is it that we're doing with the resources that we have? What are the benefits for us as a church, for us as believers, and for our nation if we really take entrepreneurship seriously and you go into it? It fosters economic growth. We've already touched on the purpose, and we said we should create jobs, so it creates jobs. But there's also a social impact. Good businesses, big businesses, small businesses, wealthy businesses address social ills and they bring positive change. If you create a product that makes babies sleep better at night, that is a positive change. If you make a product that reduces stress, you are addressing a need. If you create a product that helps people concentrate, you are answering a question. It has a social impact. If you create a product, if you manufacture something that people consume, that brings people together to say, let us break bread together, you are addressing social ills. Businesses, innovative ways of doing things within our ministry, in outreach and in soul winning. So there's also financial stewardship. We spoke about the use of talents and the use of skills effectively and with tangible results. Those are some of the benefits. Entrepreneurship also allows for community building through collaboration. If you are manufacturing shoes for sports and there is a company or an organization that is funding a sports organization, and if there is someone who has started a sports team, there is a line already there of collaboration, and it helps build a community. If there are a lot of unemployed youth who are skilled or who are talented in soccer, in football, someone is coaching them, someone is providing the shoes that they are going to wear. Someone says, I can sew clothes, let me make their jersey for this community. When people begin to team up and come together and collaborate on that based on their skills and their resources, you are all collaborating and you're all building a community. That's what entrepreneurship does. Sometimes we want to help, but you say, I don't know, how do I help? How do I help our community? There are so many challenges. The young people are going into drugs. The young people are beginning to break into our houses. That is a social ill. But if you say, let me partner with this person and that business and that enterprise, and together we can create something that takes these kids off the street, then they spend a lot of their time during the day playing soccer. They come back from there tired and exhausted. They all want to come back home, celebrate the good day they had, eat something, and sleep. You have already helped the community. You have already started building a community, because we are losing a lot of the young people to crime, to drugs, to all sorts of things, because they have become idle. And the word tells us, an idle mind becomes the devil's advocate. There is also a saying that says that. So when you have created opportunities, when you have created innovative ways and started collaborating with other creators, with other entrepreneurs, you are beginning to build a community. So it doesn't matter how small your contribution is. Once you put all those small contributions together, they will definitely amount to something big. So there's empowerment and self-reliance. It also promotes giving and saving in the house. If you're self-employed and you're making money, if you are actually making money, then at the end of the day, it also promotes giving, and it allows you to serve in the house of the Lord. It allows you to contribute towards the ministry and to grow for kingdom advancement, to pay for the word to go and to travel, to pay for resources, to also support the ministry in more than one way. And it also promotes spiritual growth. When you're in business, for those of us who are in business, you would testify with me that sometimes it's not as easy as it sounds. It's not always rosy. It's not always simple. You have to be diligent. You have to really be resilient. You have to fight. Sometimes you really have to put up with a lot. It calls for, you are challenged in more than one ways. But as you are doing that and you are in that space, there's competition, there's corruption, there's fraud, there's nepotism. There are a lot of things that happen within that space, within the world. But as a Christian, and you get into a space where there's competition, there are fights left, right, and center. What begins to happen is you begin to exercise your faith. You begin to put your trust in God. You begin to learn to endure in hard times. You can invest in a very lucrative business today, and then tomorrow morning you suffer 100% loss. Everything you bought, everything you invested in is stolen. It is not insured, or the insurance company fails to pay for it for one reason or another, blaming you for negligence or whatever good reason. You lose everything that you have invested in and put together. It's very difficult. It's hard times. You need to start again from scratch. You have moved 10 steps forward. There is a pandemic. Something happens. Your business requires you to be outside with the people. Then you have to stay indoors. You can't go where you're supposed to go. How do you manage that? So when those hard times and those challenges come within that space at that scale, and you remember that he who started a good work in me will finish it, will see it unto fruition. When you begin to say, the just shall live by faith, you begin to say, if God is for us, who can be against us? You begin to trust, you begin to confess that the Lord is my shepherd and I shall not want. You begin to put your trust in God and to learn to endure in difficult times. So those are some of the benefits of becoming entrepreneurs and, investing and getting into business. So, I think we will be wrapping up in the next 2 slides. I spoke a lot about what entrepreneurship is. I spoke a lot about the advantages, and we've looked at some of the examples and the foundation, which is biblical. I didn't speak a lot on etiquette. So, what is etiquette from a kingdom perspective? When you talk of etiquette, we're talking about the manner in which we conduct ourselves, the manner in which we conduct our business, the manner in which we show up, the manner we engage with other people. So when we're talking of etiquette within business, and specifically so from a kingdom perspective, we're saying we ought to be professional in our appearance. Because excellence honors God. Simple things: dress neatly and appropriately, professionally, according to the occasion. You have been invited to a network dinner, network meeting to say, well, we have businesses, we're gathering. Please come and pitch and tell us what you do. You need to show up looking the part. Not extraordinary, it's not exaggerated, but just understanding to say, okay, this is the dress code for the trade. This is what is acceptable within this space. This is representative or this is presentable. My goodness, English. All right. So etiquette in terms of communication. We need to learn, we need to train ourselves in terms of how we think, in terms of what we feed our thoughts, our minds, what we read, what we feed our hearts, what we meditate on, because then out of the abundance of the heart, our mouths speak. And Colossians 4:6, let our conversations always be full of grace. Let's speak respectfully of other people, of ourselves, of people, of other people's services and products and everything. Let us be truthful in our communication. Let us be kind and avoid gossip and avoid harsh language. Avoid being dishonest. Let us avoid manipulation. That is all part of etiquette in as far as communication is concerned. I've worked with people who always start meetings by apologizing because I'm sorry I got held up. I'm sorry I got delayed. I'm sorry, I was called into another meeting before this meeting. And half the times before you sign that deal, you think twice. Do I really want to work with this person? Their late arrival is communicating disrespect. Their constant late arrivals without really justifiable reasons shows me that they don't take what they are doing and what we are doing seriously. They are not respecting other people's times. they might promise you that they will deliver and then deliberately so fail to deliver and not be fazed and worried about it. It's so we need to begin to train ourselves to be punctual, to be prepared, and to be reliable. That is part of etiquette. The Bible talks about seasons, and if it's a season to do your winter plowing, you need to do your winter plowing. If you are a farmer and it's a season to plant your seed, to do your seeding and to prepare for the time to plant, you need to do just that within the season. So punctuality, preparedness, reliability, that's all part of time management, and it's part of etiquette. Are you reliable? Can people rely on you? If you're going to catch a flight at 7 o'clock, are you going to wake up at 6 when the time to travel to the airport is 30 minutes or an hour? You can't. Do you plan? Do you respect time? Do you manage your time appropriately? Then we do have meetings. Arrive early at the meeting. Listen actively, not to listen to defend yourself, not to listen to give a reaction, not to listen to answer, but listen to understand. Avoid interrupting other people. Keep your commitments if you have made a commitment, and follow through. If you are working with other people and dealing with other people, follow through on your promises or on the tasks that have been set for you or on tasks that you have set for other people. And in the world of business, in one way or the other, we become customers or we have customers. Treat everyone with dignity. If you are having a business that relies on customers who buy from you or who come and give you feedback on your product, listen to them. Let your customers feel heard. Let your customers feel appreciated. That thank you so much, we appreciate you at the end of a business deal is really important. People feel respected, people feel valued. And when people feel respected and people valued because of the way you relate to them, they become happy customers. And once you have happy customers, they become ambassadors for your product. They become ambassadors for your business. They speak of your business in rooms where you are not in. So it is important to understand that form of etiquette. The sixth one under etiquette is digital etiquette. We live now, as we are meeting here today on Zoom, we live in a very virtual environment. Be very professional on your online platforms. Be very professional in your online engagements. We do have social media these days. We do have WhatsApps. We do have, Facebook. We have X. We have all sorts of, we have TikTok. What is it that you post on your social media spaces? How do you present yourself? What sort of identity do you occupy online? And a lot of people say, what I post on my WhatsApp and my status is not a representation of who I am. So don't judge me based on what I post on my social media. Trust me, a lot of people understand that, but not everyone does, right? So what is it that you share? What is it that you promote? What is it that you identify yourself with? How do you identify yourself? Does it carry a professional, emblem? Does it show your professionalism? Does it begin to get people to identify with your values? When you meet with people in the social spaces, virtually, in the video meetings, how do you carry yourself? How do you, respect that space, and how do you present yourself? So that is all part of etiquette. And I think that leads us to the end of this presentation. There is more that we could dive into, but I felt for what it's worth and for the purpose of this teaching, let us conclude it on this note. I think it suffices. So thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity once again. Little gist, allow me to hand over the mic back to you and allow you to facilitate if there are any questions or any conversation that needs to happen specifically with regards to the teaching, or if we need to wrap up. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. That was very comprehensive and succinct and tadzidza etiquette tikaturwa. Mwari vatibatsire, Mwari vapindire so that we discover the entrepreneurs that are in each and every one of us. Mwari achipa each and every one of us so many gifts. Mwari vatibatsire to use his gifts for the enhancement of his kingdom. So I don't know, kana paine any questions? Kana vanhu vada kuziva more about being entrepreneurs and applying kingdom principles in the marketplace. Kana kuti tanzwisisa. Ndatsurwa wangu pa timekeeping kuya kuchurch, saka next time I'm improving. Nenda kuya kuchurch and respecting time yamwari. Thank you so much, Baba Marovatsanga. Kana pasina any questions ndakusira nguva ino kune magosa edu. Kana paine zviziviso. Thank you.
Mazvita sisi Sharon nekuti tungamira zvakanaka. Thank you so much. Makadi Dominion Church. Pamusoro emufundisi, pamusoro emutauri wedu Baba Marovatsanga nevatauri vese vakakokwa muvhiki rinori, pamusoro eSNT, pamusoro eCM. Tiri kutenda Mwari zveshuwa nechirongwa chamakatirongera. Tadzidza zveshuwa, ndofunga tese tabatsirika kuti seko zviri kuita kunge zvisiri kunyatsosimuka. Mwari ngavazotibatsira tigoimprova etiquette. Mazvita eSNT nekuti ikwipa zveshuwa pasina excuse yekuya kuti tichiti mari hadzisi kubatika. We have been equipped. Chasara kuenda kunozama hanzi munhu wese ane ability yekucreate. Hapana anoti ndakazenge ndagumira grade 1. Mwari vanokubatsira vachikuitira zvakanaka. Thank you so much Baba Marovatsanga nekubvuma kushandiswa nguva yese yatinoda kukushandisai. You are always available, kunyange muri munhu ari busy. Mwari ngavazokuropafadzai nemhuri vachikuitirai zvakanaka. Ndinongoda kuramba tichisimbisana vadikani kuti tirambe takangochengeteka kwatiri sekukurudzirwa kwatiri kuitwa namufundisi, uye kucommunicata kana pane zvasimuka. Asi ndoda kuzosiyira nguva ino kuna CM Baba Sarupinda vatibatsirewo kuti tichafamba sei wiki rinori kuzosvika musi weSunday. Reketa ndikumbire CM Baba Sarupinda muzivise church kuti tiri kufamba sei muvhiki rinori. Mazvita. Mazvita CM, mazvita chechi nekuve pano tizogadzirira zveshuwa izuva rekupembera musi wesande kwauri ikoko teka nekugadzirira semunhu achange achipemberera. Mazvita gedzai ndidzosere nguva kumubato wechigaro.
Mazvita gosa, tinoda kutenda munhu wese nekusvikira, kutenda mutauro wedu nesuku rakanaka, tikutenda isu Dominion. Mufundisi vabuda vane lesson, saka ndichakumbira mainetsa gosa wedu kuti motivharira nemunamato.
Mazvita regai tinamate. Baba muzita raJesu nokunamatai chikutendai manheru ano nekutisanganisa semhuri yeDominion. Tinofara Mwari vari kudenga kusangana tiri vapenyu takachengetwa. Tinokudza zita renyu kunyange nechidzidzo changa chiri pamberi pedu. Tinonamata chikutendai Mwari nekuti mativhura maziso. Takunamata Jehovha vari kudenga chitibatsirai patanga tichizengurira zvatanga tichitya kuti pamwe hatizvigoni, zvatanga tichishaya kuti tinozviita sei, zvatanga tisinganzwisi kuti vamwe vari kuzviita vanozviita sei. Mazviita imi Mwari nekuisa zvese pachena. Chitibatsirai Jehovha una masimba ose kuti tigone kuzviriritira kuburikidza nekushandisa maoko edu. Tinonamata chikutendai nemudziyo wamashandisa Baba Marovatsanga mwana wenyu ngaaropafadzwe iye nemhuri. Tinonamata nzeve imwe neimwe yanzwa muchitaura manheru anoburikidza nemwana wenyu ngairopafadzwe igobudirira pakuvavarira kwose kwatinenge tichiita maareas ese akasiyana siyana. Tirikukutendai Mwari nemwaka weharvest wauya kunyange zvinhu zvakaoma, asi isusu tinongotirayira kuti muzvinhu zvose tionge imimi, muzvinhu zvose tiappreciate kuve vapenyu. Tinokutendai neumwe mukana Mwari muna 2026 wekuuya nebupuro. Tibatsirei Mwari vari kudenga, tizevezerei semhuri zvamunoda kuti tiite. Hatidi kuita zvepfungwa dzedu, hatidi kuita zvekutetera tichityira. Imimi Mwari, direct us, guide us, mutiratidze zvamunotarisira kwatiri, mutigonese, mutipe nzira dzekuzviita. Muri Mwari vanogona. Tinokutendai nevari kutungamirira veStewardship and Temperance. Rambai muchivapa mazano Mwari, bless them with brilliant ideas dzekuti chiitiko chigobudirira zvakanaka. Mumwe nemumwe agomira panzvimbo yake, kuda kwenyu kugoitwa. Kereke yeDominion igoramba ichifanza nekuvandudzwa nemi. Mazviita Mwari, mazviita Mweya Mutsvene. Tinonamata, rambai makatichengeta patinenge takaparadzana Mwari, mutitungamirire kusvika patinosangana zvakare musi weFriday tiri mumweya wokufara. Ngapashayi Mwari chinotora rufaro rwedu. Muri Mwari vane nyasha manheru ano. Takunamatai nekukutendai nekukudzai muzita raBaba reMwanakomana neremweya anoera. Amen. Tenzi vanotichengeta pakati pedu, ivai nesu apo tinenge tisi pamwe. Amen. Mazvita.
Amen. Mazvita, good night.
Recording stopped.